So speaking of people who are groups who are less than happy with Apple, the major news publishers are now getting into the mix. And so Epic seems to have started, there's been this chain reaction, some like to call it a domino effect, where you see one story break and you're like, you know what? Maybe now's the time. Apple, this enormous, powerful giant who you're afraid of, you're over in the corner, geez.
Yeah.
So big and powerful. I don't want to cause a ruckus. They might kick me out. My business about to, fall off a cliff. And I don't want to do that. And so Epic comes out and they're this type of company that has they got a bank account at least. They got a few dollars at least. So that's inspiring. And then the other developers start to talk and the news publishers jump on board and they say, is our deal good? And the news publishers are especially upset because of the Apple News product. The Apple News product, they said, oh, you got to work with us directly in here. And we'll decide how this relationship works. Because the thing is, the news publishers, they'd prefer to just give you the app, sign the subscription in-app, and take a higher percentage of the revenue, as they do on their websites with the paywalls and the New York Times of the world and all this. So they got together a big group of them, and they got a name for it, Digital Content Next, the Digital Media Trade Association. It includes newspapers like the New York Times, the Washington Post, numerous magazines, broadcasters, and websites, including Vox Media Group, which is where this particular article is published. And what they're saying, Will, is very specific. They're not even referencing Epic Games, although Epic Games may be somewhat inspirational. More inspirational for this group is the new findings around the special Amazon Prime deal that Prime Video, that Bezos was able to negotiate, and these details that emerged from the Congress hearings. When Apple was getting grilled about their practices, it came up that, okay, fine, you have these policies. Why'd you make a different policy for Amazon? Is it because Bezos himself, multi-billionaire, he has the leverage, and then all the little small timers don't? You see, the deal he got was 85-15.
Yeah. It wasn't consistent.
Amazon Prime Video, they negotiated 85% of the revenue goes to Amazon and 15% goes to the App Store. Now, you would think, Will, if anyone could afford the 30 points, maybe Amazon could afford the 30 points, but that's not what it's about. Once it becomes more important for Apple to have that content in there, they see it as a major strategic advantage, well, then they start to negotiate. So Epic was really kind of just pulling that Amazon string, though they did it in reverse, right? Bezos could have left Prime Video off the App Store and lived his life, and he would have been fine. And maybe Apple knew that, so the leverage didn't live with them. But these emails come out, and now everybody's saying, well, I want that deal. Of course I want that deal. We're talking about 15 points here. I want 85% of revenue. So all these publishers are citing those emails and that particular deal, and they're saying, we want the same thing.
Right.
And they're saying, we want the same thing even more because we're not Amazon. Because we're not that big. And we can use the extra 15 points even better than they could. And then we have more voices out there, and then we have more, not necessarily independent media, but just a wider variety. You see? So anyway, that's the case they're making. I don't know where you land on it. I think this just adds a little bit of texture to the entire conversation around the fact that it's not just Epic Games and it's not just game developers. It's everybody in there that has gotten to a point now where it's bubbling over. And it really makes you curious about what the right numbers are. I think if everybody had 85-15, there wouldn't be much to say. People seem to have a problem with this 30. And it's across the board. Nobody's out there shouting, well, I'm sure there's somebody that is, but it seems like there's a lot of noise right now around that 30% and whether or not it's justified. Even though it's Apple's deal, they all signed up for it and they sold apps and they did everything. But we got Spotify having a problem, Microsoft having a problem, Epic has a problem, all the news publishers have a problem. I mean, it's a lot of problems.
Yeah. Do you think that they'll get the ball rolling even more if they do get, the 85%? It's like, okay, can I get 90? What about 95?
Yeah.
What about 100%?
Well,
of
this is
the
all
revenue?
based on the Amazon case, right? So they didn't pull this number out of the air. Once the document became public, everybody sat there and said, well, that's the deal I want. That one.
Right.
I think publishers on their own or any individual game developer knows they don't have the leverage, nor did they have the evidence prior to this that it was even. Apple consistently said we make no exceptions, and we're not going to be making exceptions. I mean, you can look at the language around the Epic ban.
Yeah.
Well, there's an exception. They have an exception now.
Yeah.
And so
here's the number.
So they're just chipping and hammering away at that because this is the smoking gun, so to speak, that there are exceptions. And this just happens to be the public one. Maybe they're not all public where those exceptions live and those special negotiations. Now, Apple gets to do what they want. Well, they get to do what they want. It's their app store. I feel the need to put that piece in there.
And $2 trillion.
Yeah, they hang when you're worth $2 trillion, you get to do what you want. Yeah. And you got hundreds of billions just sitting in the bank account, cash money, you get to do what you want. Big revenues, you do what you want. Infinite loop, you do what you want. iPhone 12, you do what you want. But it doesn't mean people can't get upset. And it doesn't mean people don't want to renegotiate. That's just what they're doing.
Yep.